Have you been told that our food supply is controlled? That for some reason, we're being controlled and manipulated with the choices that we're making. But what if those choices are causing impact in your life and the life of others that isn't a welcome choice, that you would never choose that? So today, we are going to, if you're concerned about either lack of food choice or the choices of manipulation or whatever is going on in your area of the world, then today we're going to make a plan. Because today we have Dr. Will Tuttle, PhD, and he is a award-winning speaker, educator, musician, author of the World Peace Diet. He's an amazing man. I had the privilege of meeting him in a while back, and he's been in the classroom. Every time he comes on, he speaks to my heart and our compassion. So today, I'm excited that we're going to be talking about the food freedom in our life. He's going to help us with that.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lily McDermott, and I'm a certified life coach and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show, Classroom. If this is the first time that you've come into the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, as I said before, I am just so grateful that we get to have this conversation. There's many conversations that we have in the classroom that aren't happening enough. And this is one of those conversations where it creates awareness of our choices when it comes to our food. And if you're ready to take the shackles off, we're ready to invite Dr. Will Tuttle in. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Will Tuttle is here to do just that. Welcome, Dr. Tuttle, to the classroom.
Thank you so much, Lillian. It's great to be with you, and thanks everyone for watching and listening in.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm, very curious as to the topic because you chose the topic today. Usually I have like this inkling that I want a particular topic, but food freedom. So share a little bit about your background and what does it mean to have food freedom?
Thank you. Yeah, actually, the idea, I think there's really nothing more important than to make the connection between what we're eating, our food, and freedom, what freedom actually is. And I want to say at the very beginning, freedom is not the idea of just personal license that I can do whatever I want and put the consequences out onto other people. It's really authentic freedom is sovereignty. It's taking responsibility for our lives and living our mission and respecting other human beings and other living beings and their missions as well. So it's really a spiritual quality of consciousness that we all have. And it's essential. Without freedom, we really don't have a life. And so the underlying idea in my new book, which is called Food for Freedom, is that we are all born into a culture where from the time we're little infants, we're compelled to participate in these rituals, these mealtime rituals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner typically, where we're eating the flesh and secretions of animals who have been enslaved. And they have been exploited and manipulated in really pretty horrific ways, actually. And this is normalized. It's considered to be natural and really, in many ways, it's like our right. It's like we're privileged and we get to eat these animals, certain animals, and that it's sort of set up that way. Our religions pretty much even allow this to happen and support it. But the underlying idea is that whatever we sow in our relations with others, we will reap ourselves. And so I really see that we are at a critical time in our society where if we fail to liberate animals, we will continue to reap the loss of our own freedom. And we can, if we're paying attention, we can see this happening all around us. We can see our medical freedom, are constitutional freedoms that are really not given to us by the government. They're actually inherent and innate freedoms, the freedom of being a human being on this beautiful earth, the freedom to speak, the freedom to connect with other people, to publish whatever we'd like to publish, and to give our opinions about the truth, and our religious freedom. These basic freedoms that are guaranteed by our Constitution and the freedom of bodily autonomy and all these things are under a really vigorous attack. And I think it's basically the result of what we've been doing for hundreds of years and really for thousands of years to the animals of this earth. We imprison them and we think that it's fine to do that. And then we turn around and we see that we're losing our own freedom. And this is something that's been going on for a long time. This is not just a new thing, but it's just the tempo is increasing. So I'm really delighted that you have this class, that you are open to talking about these things, because these are in many ways somewhat taboo subjects. We're questioning the official narratives of the medical industry, of the food industry, of the educational system, of the governmental agencies that we think we can trust to give us guidance on things, the mainstream media that we think is giving us truth about things. And what we realize actually is that we are really on our own. We have to rely on our inner wisdom, our intuition, and also on our discriminating awareness, on our discernment, our rationality, and our ability to understand at a deeper level. And also, I think we have to cultivate our empathy, our ability to feel compassion for other beings, for animals, for ecosystems, for other human beings, and really understand basically that we're spiritual beings, in the sense that what we are is not just a piece of like a physical body that we sort of address that in each other. We're taught that from the time we're little kids, that we're just this body and we see each other as bodies, but that what we are is what makes this body possible. We are the infinite and eternal consciousness that gives rise to this, and this is our vehicle. So my background, just very, very briefly, I was born and raised just like everybody else, eating lots of meat and dairy and eggs and processed foods and so forth. Fortunately, I left home right after college, went on this spiritual pilgrimage. I thought with my younger brother, Ed, we were in our early 20s. He was 20, I was 22. We thought we would walk all the way to California. We ended up walking as far as Buffalo, New York, with no money, and then just heading south and walking to Alabama, about 15 or 20 miles a day, walking and meditating. And in that whole process, we stayed in hippie communes along the way. And there was one really big one called The Farm, the largest in the world. And they were all vegetarians. They were actually all vegans. And so I was really introduced at a deep level to eating a totally plant-based diet and doing it for ethical reasons, really doing it to reduce hunger, because most of the food we grow, instead of feeding it to people who are hungry, we're feeding it to these imprisoned cows and pigs and chickens and factory farm fish. And that's very wasteful. And so we have starvation on the one hand, and then we have obesity on the other hand. And it's really driven by this food system that we're born into, which wastes massive amounts of corn and soy and land and water and petroleum and fattens us up. But it works very well for a tiny plutocratic globalist cabal, really, a tiny minority of human beings who get wealthy and powerful from disease and from environmental devastation and from conflict. So the key is, if we want to have freedom, this is what I started to see back then, we really have to have justice. We have to care for each other. We have to do what we can so that we're not harming other living beings, other animals, hungry people. Slaughterhouse workers, of course, are terribly abused by having to stab animals. They have the highest rates of injury, among the highest rates of worker-related mental illness and suicide, drug addiction, alcoholism. They're just doing work that brings out the worst in them. So the whole idea really is making our spirituality and bringing it into daily life, making it concrete, and abiding by the golden rule. Don't do to others what you wouldn't want to have done to yourself. That's the underlying idea. And that's really, it's very simple, but it's revolutionary. And if we really live that way, I think we would find our health just increasing so much. So, so the underlying idea really that I discovered on this walk was at the hippie communes, basically was that we don't have to eat animal foods, that all the nutrients that we need to thrive and celebrate our lives on this beautiful earth are made by plants. We don't have to eat animals. Any nutrient that's in the flesh of animals or in dairy products or eggs came from plants through photosynthesis and from their ability to be connected to the earth and bring up minerals, create vitamins, and all the essential fatty acids, the proteins, the carbohydrates, the fiber, everything we need. So I have not eaten any animal foods of any kind in 44 years, since 1980. And I've been very healthy. I'm now in my early 70s, and I haven't been to a doctor now since it's been like almost 50 years, I guess, or a good 50 years. So, and that's not anything to be proud of. It's just basically, I think when we take responsibility for our health, we do our best to be savvy, right? To not believe whatever the official narratives are about health.
Yeah.
They're really designed basically to profit the medical industry, right? And the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry make no money on healthy people. That's why I haven't given any money to them really in 50 years. I haven't had health insurance. I just stayed out of it. But that doesn't mean it was easy. It meant I really take responsibility. So I'm exercising. I'm very careful to eat only whole, organic, plant-based foods. But I feel that health is the key to freedom in many ways.
Of course.
Without health, our body, we don't have energy. We have to take pharmaceutical medications that are poisonous. We have to have procedures very often that reduce our vitality. What we're doing is very often polluting the earth and harming other people. Other people have to take care of us. We reduce the freedom of other people. The basic teaching is where everything is interconnected. All life is interconnected. And so the more we can be a blessing to others, the more we can eat a clean, healthy diet of whole, organic, plant-based foods that uses the minimum amount of land and water and petroleum, the more happy and healthy we will be because we're wasting less. And I think that's the key. I think we're waking up now. Our whole society is realizing that the way we're living has been very wasteful. We waste food and water and land and all of that. It's like Gandhi said, there's enough on this earth for everyone's need, but there will never be enough for everyone's greed. Mm-hmm. And so it's to get back to the spiritual basics of wisdom. Back in the early 1980s, I was a Zen Buddhist monk.
I was just gonna ask about that. That experience. That experience caused you to become aware of the sensitivity of the animals, of that interconnection with the animals, that when they suffer, we all suffer indirectly. Or was it when you were with the vegans at the communes and the hippies and all that? So when was it for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something I think that just grows with time. I got a glimpse of it in the beginning. The thing is, when we're eating animal foods, it's very difficult to actually sensitize ourselves to the suffering of animals because we're eating them and we just would rather not know. We just put the blinders on. Actually, the blinders have been put on us. We didn't put them on. They're put on us by very loving, caring people like my own mother and father, friends, neighbors, relatives, the doctor, sure, the minister. They all just put those blinders on when I was a kid and said, don't care about animals, don't care about cows and pigs and chickens. You can care about your dog and your cat, but don't care about them because they're just put here for us to use.
Well, lucky cats and dogs, because we discriminate against the animals too. So,
right.
Yeah,
exactly. No, so the thing is, for me, it was once I could see the example, that was the beautiful thing, the example of healthy people eating a plant-based diet and then sitting with them and learning how to make, I learned from them like how to make tofu and how to cook rice and how to do all these things. And so that was it. I've never eaten meat in my life. That was almost 50 years ago. And then a few years later, I went totally vegan. And it was because I was getting more sensitive. I started sensitizing myself to the suffering of animals. And then after 5 years in 1980, I thought, I'm going to stop eating dairy products and eggs. And also I'm not going to buy any more leather and wool and silk. And I'm going to really be careful that The products I'm buying are not tested on animals. I'm not going to go to a rodeo or some kind of a place where they're harming animals. All these things. It's just becomes pretty obvious. It's not giving anything up. That's the beautiful thing. It's like it's a joy to live this way. It's like people say, well, you can't eat this and you can't eat that. It's kind of like, would I really want to put my hand on a hot burner? Not really. I mean, it's just a basic wisdom of not harming others, which is harming myself. Somebody said to me once, but don't you sometimes just crave to have a burger? Wouldn't it be great just to have a burger now and then?
Well, mushroom burgers are great. I've had
Well,
mushroom burgers. They're
yeah,
like
but
yeah.
I said to him, I would crave to have a burger about as much as I crave to take a bite out of your arm right now.
Oh
Because
boy, that's a
basically,
visual.
I have
That's a
no
visual.
craving. It's like not, it's not even part of my reality because it's
Well,
not food.
after
We're
44
not food.
years, you said 44 years, I think you had
Yeah,
mentioned that it's been 44 years that you've lived this lifestyle, that you've embraced it, and not only are you embracing it, you teach it. You teach
right.
others, and right now you're touring. And I know that in March 8th you're going to be in Cape Canaveral, which I hope to be there because it's really important that even if for people who are carnivores and that's all they eat, it just would be nice to just kind of like start listening to some of these truths that would might make you create a little bit of balance and make that adjustment just like Will did. I mean, I know that I mean I will tell you, I've had people come into the classroom and say, well, that people that are vegans are lacking omega-3s, they're lacking B12, they're lacking, and I forget what the other one was, zinc maybe. And so what do you say to that?
No, I mean, I guess it's possible to be short of nutrients with any diet, but the thing is, when you look carefully at diets, the nutrients really concentrate in vegetables and fruits and plant-based foods. So there's far more risk of being low on nutrients if you're eating an animal-based diet. Because when you're eating a plant-based diet, you're getting, generally speaking, a lot more abundance of vitamins and minerals and the other nutrients that you need. And the two most important nutrients, really, I mean, the two most really important nutrients are complex carbohydrates and fiber. And there's no complex carbohydrates and there's no fiber in animal-based foods. There aren't any. Carbohydrates are the energy that runs our body, right? We should be eating lots of carbs. Carbs are in vegetables and grains and beans and so forth and fruits and so forth. They're not in animal foods, and it's what our brain runs on. Our brain is only about 2 or 3% of our body weight, but it uses about 30% of the energy. It runs on glucose, which basically comes from carbohydrates. So we should be eating plants for that, and fiber is incredibly important. Without fiber, our whole digestive system isn't happy, and the microbiome isn't happy, and the microbiome is really the foundation for a healthy emotional system too. So I think it's good to be aware that our soils are depleted nowadays. We lived in an RV for 17 years, so we traveled and we would go as much as possible to farmers markets and to the organic section of grocery stores. And I never took supplements actually myself. I mean, we'd have a little bit of B12 sometimes, which I think is maybe a good idea. If you're not eating any plant-based foods at all, it's very inexpensive. Methylcobalamin you can have a little bit, every week or so. It's probably a good idea. But most of the people who are like B12 deficient are not vegans. So it's really part of the conditioning. I think when we take away the meat and the dairy and the eggs from the plate, the natural reaction is, well, where do I get my protein? Where do I get this and that and the other? It must be. You mean I didn't have to eat? I have to kill these animals? That's too easy, But actually, I mean, here I am. I mean, and it's not just me. There's millions of people who are thriving on plant-based diets, right? I mean, people, in generally speaking, for millions of years, ate primarily high complex carbohydrate, low protein diets with lots of fiber. And that's the most long-lived, healthy people in the world eat that way. The blue zones, that whole movement of looking at the longest lived, healthiest people, that's how they live. They eat a high carbohydrate, low protein diet. We don't need a lot of protein. We need some protein, but there's protein in all these foods. So I think you can get omega-3s. Like we have, the thing is, I was going to say also is that for the last 12 years, we bought a little piece of land. It's only half an acre and a house in Northern California. And we have 76 now. We're up to 76 fruit and nut trees.
That's awesome.
And raised beds of vegetables and berries and greens and so forth. So we're eating a lot from our own land. And that's really fantastic because we're building the soil. We're putting minerals into the soil, rock dust and glacial dust, and composting everything. And so we're just building the soil, and every year it gets better. Every year the trees are bigger, there's more fruits, and now we're even selling at the farmers market.
Wow, good for you. Good
now
for
I'm a
you.
farmer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a great thing, So it's really important for us to question the official narratives in our society about health. If we're eating a healthy diet, we can take in a lot of sun without worrying about getting skin cancer. Sun is very important. Vitamin D deficiency is a real problem. So it's important for us to get plenty of sunshine, plenty of fresh air, get in the water. I swim every day. Connect with nature. There's so much to health. It's not just our food. Food is very important, but to stop eating processed foods. I mean, we eat very little of anything from a factory. Pretty much everything we eat is the vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, and seeds that we fix from scratch. It's not that difficult. Once you just get the hang of it, cook up some grain and some vegetables, or have a nice smoothie, or make some oats. We have a little roller that rolls them and that flakes them and so forth. And these are whole foods that are delicious and nutritious, and we have an abundance of energy. I mean, here I am. My wife and I both are in our 70s, and we just we're not sick. We run around like people in their 20s or 30s.
So let me ask you. I've heard you say several times that it's been like 50 years since you've seen a doctor. Do you still monitor things in your body to make sure that you're not getting so out of whack? Because sometimes we feel, for example, Dr. Lorraine Day, she used to say that all the time, but she was a doctor, and I used to say to her, when you say that, because she used to also say, and I will quote her, she'd say that if you go to a doctor, you have no faith in God, because God is your healer. That's what she would say. And going to the doctor became like something that she would judge as, you don't have faith or you don't believe in God. And so I would always kind of like get back to her and say, listen, you can say that, you're a doctor, you know the signs. She was she passed away just recently. She was a trauma orthopedic doctor, for the first part of her life, and then the rest was healing from cancer. That's what she did. And from that point on, she was trusting God to heal her. Well, she just recently passed away. And so it's not my story to tell why, but I do know why. And so had she gone to the doctor sooner, perhaps maybe she would still be alive today. And so I'm asking that with you. Do you monitor yourself to make sure your vitamin D is in balance, that your magnesium is in balance? Can you tell that from your body? How do you suggest some other people would monitor if they want to go raw vegan or vegan? You're raw vegan or vegan or?
Yeah, we eat about probably half to 2/3 raw, but we eat cooked. Dinner is pretty much always cooked. Yeah.
Okay, good. So what is your advice to someone who wants to say, I don't want to go to a doctor anymore. I want to take ownership. As you know, my registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility, but it's not that I'm against the pill. I am for doing everything you can to live a healthy life. And so with that in mind, what are some of your suggestions for someone who would like to go vegan and want to make sure that they're giving the body, that it's not being depleted, that they're getting what it needs? What are some of those signs that you look for in your body?
Right. Well, those are great questions. And my new book, Food for Freedom.
When is it coming out? Did it come out already?
It's coming out.
Oh,
It's at it's at the publisher getting designed. It
okay.
should be out in March. We're hoping probably March or April. So
Well,
in the
we're gonna
next
have
month
to
or
come
two.
you, yep, we have to
Yeah.
have you come back for that. Okay,
Yes. Right.
what do you have to say about
But
that?
anyway, so there's three parts, and the first two parts are talking about what we're talking about, the philosophy. The part three is 6 keys to radiant health, and so it's all like 150 pages. So I'm not sure how we can, but the basic idea is healthy, organic, whole, plant-based foods. Cooked in pans that are surgical steel, so we're not getting heavy metal poisoning, making sure we're really having excellent water filters and air filters, and then mindfulness, meditation, exercise, connecting with nature, having a purpose, healthy relationships. All these things go together to be healthy. And the thing, as far as going to a doctor goes, I think everyone has to make that decision for themselves. My father was going to be a doctor. He was a medic in World War II, and he ended up not being a doctor. And I asked him about it, and he said, well, I just didn't have a good experience with it. And a lot of what I did, I didn't think it was helping people that much. I mean, they would get in these long lines, and I'd have to give them a shot. I don't think that was helping. And he said, and then his advice was, I think you should stay away from doctors. That was what he said when I was a kid. And I have followed his advice. I've just stayed away from doctors. That's what I feel is good for me to do. I've also really seriously studied spiritual healing from a variety of perspectives. I've studied Christian Science. I've also studied the Buddhist tradition, the medicine Buddha, and the practices of meditation for healing and understanding. And what I said earlier is one of the key things. The best way to be healthy is to understand that this physical body is a product of consciousness. And when we are out of balance in some way, if we have unsolved dilemmas or angers or fears from our past, our body is the tool that our consciousness uses to help us face that, to help us. Like I got a terrible back pain at one point. When I was in my mid-20s, I was on a long meditation retreat, and I was in this meditation, and I just heard this voice that said, "A pain in the body is a pain in the mind," and that just opened up the door. And I wrote it.
And soul too. A
Yeah,
pain.
well,
Yeah, yeah.
the pain. So I realized that the pain I was experiencing was coming up because of my meditation practice, and it was when I was a little kid. I was totally open to the world and everything. And then at one point when I got a little bit older and started going to teens, I just started getting more afraid and didn't want to get judged and criticized and rejected by the peers and all these things. And so the pain in my back always hurt when I bent over, when I bent forward. Like when I went to reach out to life, it hurt. And so I could see it was coming up now to heal this in my consciousness. And so since I was out in this little cabin by myself for like 3 months in silence, I was a very intense retreat. I was able to completely turn that around and realize that at a deep level that what I am is the infinite source of all life manifesting through a physical vehicle. I have nothing to fear. The world is not outside of me. I am the world. I mean, this world and myself are not separate. And the pain just instantly dissolved. It was gone. But if I had not done that inner work, and instead I had said, well, I'm going to go to the doctor and take a drug. Then they would have, it would have. But the thing is, the underlying psychological issue was not addressed. So then I would manifest something. I would manifest a more serious thing. I'd have an accident, or I'd have a cancer, or who knows what. So the idea is to deal with these things in consciousness, then they won't manifest in the body. But you got to do it. You got to deal with it. You have to, every day we work on spiritual healing. Every day I stand porter at the gate of thought and not allow in the deceptions of this world that say that I'm just an object that was born and will die. What I am is infinite and eternal, like the sky that is never harmed by the clouds. And so for me to understand, the woman you talked about, the divine nature of consciousness, which is our source, which is our true nature. When we understand that, we're living a life really that's filled with grace. And so I don't go to doctors. Yeah, I haven't done it.
But
I wouldn't tell somebody they shouldn't do it. If someone doesn't do that inner work, and if someone
Yes,
hasn't
yeah,
had these realizations,
yeah.
then maybe they should. The funny thing is, yeah, that really is important, I think, is in this book, The Blue Zones, when they find these people that live in these places where they live to be in their hundreds and they're still vibrant, walking around, partying,
Yeah.
dancing together, working in the garden. The funny thing is, in some cases, a clinic opens up, or some doctors go in, and then they test the blood, and they find out, oh no, they're really low on this, they're low on that, and the people didn't know that, so they were healthy. Once you tell them, then they're like, they're not healthy anymore. I mean, I remember it was so funny. I actually bought a house and I bought some land and built a house in Vilcabamba, which is in Ecuador. It's called the Valley of Longevity. People live there into the 120, 100, even up to 130. And they were like this. They were vibrant. They walked around. They had really clean air and water, and they were healthy. And then this guy from Japan moved into the community,
Oh,
and he
no.
loved the people. He wanted to do something to help them and make them even healthier. So he paid to have a clinic built, and the clinic came in, and then they came in and they started testing everybody and seeing what they were doing, and said, "Come on in." And now nobody lives old anymore. I mean, it's over. They
Well,
brought in the best of medicine,
there's something to
and
be
they
said,
just,
how powerful the mind is. The mind is
yeah,
powerful. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation, I don't want to get off topic here, but I had a conversation with somebody yesterday that believes that somebody cursed him with, and the terminology is santeria, which is like
right.
witchcraft type of thing. And I was just dumbfounded that that person would even hold that to any level of truth and validity. And so I said to that person, but don't you know there's nothing greater than the power of God, that there's nothing that can harm you. And whatever man chooses to harm you, God will bless you, will use it for blessing. And so in our minds, I believe that we can create hell or we can create heaven. And these
Mhm.
people that are 130, 100 and, that live to be centenarian and are viable is because they have created an environment where they feel like they belong, that they're not like
Mhm.
leftover, because, being lonely is a horrible thing that will lead to early death. So I love to see the elderly involved in society. That's that community building where age was wisdom and honored and revered.
Mhm.
Now it's put aside. It's put aside and it's not important. So we're doing the same thing to ourselves than we've done to the animals. And what you're saying is, we don't find the value. We don't find its value. Now, you had mentioned earlier and that there is an interconnectedness with what the choices we make and the and how our society is behaving, and how disease sets in, and good intentioned doctors coming in to test people all of a sudden, and Bruce Lipton told me a story not too long, well, a long time ago. He's coming back in the classroom, but Bruce said to me that he had a mentor, and one day he had a pain on his side, and he had gone to get an x-ray because it was really hurting him. And so he went and they determined that it was cancer. And they told him that he had like 3 weeks to live or 3 months to live. I can't remember what it was. And, you know, within that breath of death that was breathed onto him by a doctor, a well-meaning doctor, the person died. His mentor died. But his daughters were cleaning out his office when they discovered a stack of x-rays, and that same spot was in that lung for 20 years. They could go back in these x-rays and they were able to see that that same spot that was called cancer was still
Right.
there 20 years prior. So the mind is powerful. And I love how mindfulness and how we need to get our heads straight and our emotions even straighter. And so I love that.
Well, yeah, what you just said, that doctor, when he said that, that was Santeria. That was a curse.
From a doctor to
The
another
doctor, yeah,
doctor.
he cursed
Yeah,
him, and the guy, he just bought into it.
he believed it. That's
He
right.
believed it. He believed the curse. He was cursed. The doctor didn't mean to curse him, but it was. That's exactly
Yes.
what it was.
Well, it's the doctor's
And
what he's
so,
learned is to say
right,
protect himself and
right,
say, I can only keep you alive for this amount of
right,
time. And if you stay
right.
longer, then
It's based on the,
yeah,
yeah, it's
based
based
on
on
the tools I have, yes.
the
But
understanding. Right.
yes, yes. So before we continue to this conversation, because I really do want to dive deeper into this interconnection. But before we do that, I want to interconnect with all of you who are watching today and encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, because this is where we take ownership for our life. I know that, there are, Dr. Andrew Saul just passed away, and I am just so like, how did this happen? Dr. Andrew Saul helped me get off all my asthma medication. And so I am just so grateful to these teachers who have taught us in the classroom how to achieve freedom from medicines, from being addicted to food, addicted to drugs, and other things as well, and dealing with these emotions. So I encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. Please, while you're there, subscribe to the website. That way you know exactly what's happening a week before we air. And we also have these awesome, throwback Thursdays that we're doing, or not throwback Thursdays, but we're doing 3 times a week. We're having these blasts from the past, which are just so nice to go and revisit once in a while and learn how we've built our belief system to today. So go to whenyouneedafriend.com, subscribe, and like and follow all my social media. Also know that I'm in all the podcasts. So if you like to listen to podcasts and you don't like to watch YouTube or Facebook or BitChute or anything like that, watch us on all the podcasts that we have out there throughout the world. While you are at whenyouneedafriend.com, though, you can play around and you can see all the past classes that we've done. Back then there was a radio show. Now it's a classroom. So now we're really about teaching, and so that we can learn together and grow together. Also look at the sponsors, support our sponsors, the way that they're supporting the classroom. And then there's the Shop Now bag. Some of these products are affiliate products, but others are not. So if you use the Shop Now bag, you're probably going to save some money by using it, and it'll help the classroom grow. Another way you can help the classroom grow is by sharing this video. Tell everybody about Dr. Tuttle and the awareness that he's creating in the world. And by you doing that, you help create a higher level of mindfulness as well. The last but not least, I want you to know that we're having we have a great event on April 6th. April 6th, we're going to come together with the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit. That I am is that God, Creator God in us, that helps us see beyond what we think we see, that helps us tap in to what Dr. Tuttle was saying about our intuition and knowing about what we're giving our body, when we're giving our body what it needs. Because when we don't give the body what it needs, we're just smashing the emotion, we're smashing our health as well. So go to whenyouneedafriend.com and click on to the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit, which is on April 6th, 2024. And if you decide regular admission, or if you want VIP admission, if you enter code Lily001, you'll get $24 off your price of admission. These are for this summit is for people who are really truly invested in their health. They want to know more, they want to know new truths, and we're going to have some great teachers like Dr. Joel Furman. We're going to have Dr. Thomas Levy, Dr. Jennifer Grameth. We have so many. Dr. Renee, I'll be there. All of you will be there. Brendan Legal for Avasia, which is a great tool. Which it gives you different frequencies. So join. There's going to be lots of vendors, and last year it was like a carnival. People were so excited to be there to meet other like-minded people. So please consider going on April 6th. Last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month or a one-time donation, whatever you can give, whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure, just sharing this video and putting emojis and tagging and doing all those things will keep the algorithms from squashing the video. So it's up to us. If it's meant to be, it's up to me, it's up to you, it's up to us. So today I'm really excited, and whatever you do, we're so grateful for. And today I'm excited to have Dr. Will Tuttle back in the classroom. I love your gentleness. I love how you practice what you preach. You know, many people say, do as I say, not as I do. And you are actually out there promoting this. So let's talk about some of the things that are happening for Dr. Will Tuttle. I know that you're going to be in Cape Canaveral, Florida on March 8th or March 8th, right? I wrote it down. I'm trying to find where I wrote it down.
Yeah,
So,
we'll be in Cape Canaveral on March 8th at the Cape Canaveral Library in the afternoon.
yeah, there it is.
Yeah, and people can also go to our website, willtuttle.com, and click on the upcoming events. You can see everything there. It's also our website, worldpeacediet.com. You can see everything there. There's so many events. I mean, the next day we'll be in Mount Dora here in Central Florida, and then in Lecanto over in Citrus County on the west coast of Florida, and then we'll be heading back toward California. We'll be doing events in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in Texas, Houston, Austin, and then across in El Paso, and then in Southern California, and we'll be back. This is actually a 5-month lecture tour we're on right now, and we've been in Florida for about 2 months, actually 2.5 months, and so it's great. We basically, my wife Madeline and I love to spend our time just sharing this message. And the World Peace Diet, my main book, has been translated into 19 languages. So we have traveled all over the world, a lot, especially to Europe, but also to China and all over Asia and India and the Middle East and Africa and South America and Australia, New Zealand, everywhere. So it's just these truths are universal, and it's just so invigorating and inspiring to see that people are embracing the wisdom of the ancient teachings, that all life is interconnected, and the more we bless others, the more we're blessed. The more we let animals celebrate their lives, don't interfere with them, don't imprison them, exploit them, or oppress them, and see that all the nutrients that we need to thrive and celebrate our lives on this beautiful earth come from plants. We're not going to be missing any nutrients. The best thing, of course, is to buy local as much as possible, grow as much food as you can yourself, try to get to know who your farmers are, if you can, in the area, and buy from organic producers who are working to build the soil. The whole idea is that agriculture really is a sacred relationship with nature, that we're here to love and bless this earth, and by planting a seed and planting seeds, the earth comes back with 1,000 seeds. It's this tremendous abundance. So there's this natural sense of gratitude. The problem basically is that we live in a society that's organized at its core around a different type of agriculture, animal agriculture, which is based on force and domination and exploitation and sexual abuse of other beings. And so
and that is currently happening in our society today.
Oh,
just what you explained. I mean, we've done classes on human trafficking and
right.
With children, and it's just
right.
horrible. But
well, the trafficking of animals and the trafficking of children go hand in hand. I mean, all the animals that are killed, they're killed at a very young age. They're killed at about the age of anywhere from 2 or 3 weeks to maybe at the most a year. So they're just babies, really, or infants or adolescents in human terms. And they're all sexually abused, and they're on rape racks as children in human terms. So if we're going to insist on sowing those kinds of seeds of sexual abuse of children, animals, we're going to see it we do see it happening to our own children. Yeah. So and we're causing it, we're eating it, we're forcing them to eat it. So this whole thing, we have to really awaken out of the satanic, unfortunately, it really is a satanic mindset of harming others. What is Satanism? I mean, Satanism is basically harming others for my own benefit without any remorse, right? I mean, there's nothing more evil than that, but that's what we're doing to millions of animals every single day. These animals have interests that are as important to them as our interests are to us, anyone who has a companion animal like a dog or a cat understands that you wouldn't want someone to come in and say, well, your dog looks pretty good. How about $4 a pound, right? We say, no
Yeah,
way.
and
I
and
care
and
about it. So,
we would have a
so
fit if we found that out. But there are other countries that eat animals like that. You know,
wow,
they
yeah,
eat their dogs, or they eat their horses, or they eat their
right,
whatever. And if that's your pet, you all of a sudden, no, don't touch my pet.
right,
But
right,
then, if it's something else that you don't really care or have a connection to. So let's
right.
talk about that interconnectedness with our food choices. You already made that connection with, trafficking, with what we're doing to animals. What are some of the other social concerns that adopting a world peace diet would be? What would it look like? And some of the principles of the world peace diet, if you can share some of
Right.
those.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's all comes back to this idea that we are microcosms of the macrocosm. So what we would like to see in the world, we go ahead and just manifest that in our relationships with others. So the basic idea is that we can feed everyone on this earth on a fraction of the land if we all ate a plant-based diet. So we could allow the rivers to heal, the oceans to heal, the forests to heal. We're deforesting now at a completely unsustainable rate of about 3 to 4 acres per second in the Amazonian rainforest. So it's just to cut down trees, to grow soybeans, not for tofu, but to feed imprisoned cows and pigs and chickens to fatten them up. So this massive environmental devastation is completely unnecessary if we eat a plant-based diet. And so the outer earth is harmed. We're killing off indigenous people. We see that we have disease, and not just physical disease, but psychological disease. And we have these industries that profit from disease. So one of the things I learned from my father, actually, who taught me to stay away from doctors. The other thing I learned, besides not trusting the medical establishment, I learned from him was don't trust the media. And the reason I learned that was because he, instead of being a doctor, he bought a newspaper right around the time I was born. And I was the heir to, actually, by the time I was in college, 13 newspapers. He had a chain outside of Boston, Massachusetts. But I learned just living in this world of the media that you can never run a news story that the advertisers will object to.
Correct.
Because they'll pull their ads and you'll go out of business. So I understand it very clearly in my bones, never to trust the news, because that's why I have people say, how is it possible that you haven't gone to a doctor in 50 years? And I say, it's very easy. I haven't had a television for 50 years. I haven't listened to the radio in 50 years. I haven't read a newspaper or a magazine in 50 years. I know that this so-called news, that people somehow have this idea that there's any truth to it. The only truth in it is what is allowed by the biggest advertisers, who are the fast food conglomerates and the medical pharmaceutical conglomerates and the big bankers in the background who make their money on war and disease and environmental devastation. So I don't trust the mainstream media at all for anything, because there's no incentive for them to tell us anything other than what's going to increase the domination and exploitation of human beings. That's really what it's about. And so what I've been warning about for 30 years, traveling and giving over 4,000 lectures all over the world, all 50 states, over 50 countries, is if we're going to insist on force medicating animals and microchipping them and tracking them and taking away their freedom, we're going to see the same thing happening to us. It's a universal law. Whatever you sow, you will reap. And so now I finally see that people are realizing this is literally true. And it's time for us, it's past time for us to liberate animals so that we can liberate ourselves, or liberate ourselves so that we can liberate animals. I mean, we're not separate. And it's really, in many ways, only slaves would tolerate living in a system enslaving so many animals. We have lost a lot of our real freedom, but we can get it back. It's our true nature. And the first step is food. Food is our most intimate connection with nature. It's our most intimate connection with our society. It's our absolutely most important aspect of our own health. And so to be healthy and free, we give a freedom to these animals. And it's interconnected with justice issues. Everything is interconnected. The way we treat each other, the way we treat our children. And the other thing that's really important to understand, I think, is that if we try to harm or imprison free living animals, for example, it's very difficult to do that. They run away, they resist, they fight, they just will do anything they can to not let that happen. But if you can imprison a free living animal somehow and then have them give birth into a prison, then while the adults will fight against the prison, the children that are the offspring that are born into the prison, they don't resist at all. They don't know any better. They don't know any different. All they know is slavery. And this is a very important point, because right now I see it happening. I see our own children being born into increased levels of slavery, into increased levels of a prison, and they don't even realize it. They don't know what they're missing. I mean, when I was a kid, I honestly had a lot more freedom than most children do nowadays. And they don't realize the price that they're paying because we're allowing this to happen. So it's essential for us, I think, as adults, to take this very seriously, because our future is being created. We're living in a society that's being engineered. And the forces that are engineering our society are very powerful. The money, in my new book, Food for Freedom, I just talk about how basically 8,000 human beings, the wealthiest 8,000 human beings, that's 1/10,000th of 1% of our population, control the government, control the universities and educational system, control the media, control Hollywood, and control the religious establishment. They control basically everything. And so in order to control people, all you have to do is control the narrative, control what they're thinking, what they're saying to themselves, and they'll go right along and they won't resist. So this is what is referred to as fifth generational warfare. In the past, when people wanted to control and dominate, they had to use military might. Fifth generational warfare is that the military understands the battlefield is the mind. The battlefield is the human mind. And if you can dominate people's thinking and their way of living and their perceptions of reality, you've won the war. And so we are in the most sophisticated, we are really the targets, what I want to say, of the most sophisticated programming in the history of the world. And the whole rollout of what's called the Great Reset and transhumanism and artificial intelligence and all these things that
So scary.
the whole transsexual thing, all of this is basically to disempower us and to treat human beings as livestock. That we are here to be used and exploited, and if there's too many of us, we need to cull the herd. So this is considered to be something. I mean, these are things that are really being talked about in the World Economic Forum and other places. They're talking about rolling out central bank digital currencies where you cannot spend any money in certain areas, especially if you've written something or said something you weren't supposed to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in a lot of trouble. I'll be in a,
Right.
but you know,
These
I'm
systems are in
visualizing,
place.
yeah, I'm
So-
visualizing this world peace that you're talking about. I'm visualizing that. You know, I think that too many people are focusing on the fact that what could go wrong. And we also need to know that
Yes,
God is a much powerful force
sure.
and what can go right. And it just is, I was back 3 years ago when all this deception was happening in our world. I remember diving deep into it, and it got to the point where I forgot about today. I forgot about today because I was living so far into the future going into that. And all we can do is now make a choice,
Right.
to do something today collectively or individually to create that peace that we all long for. That I don't know if people would even want it because we're so drawn to drama and trauma and
Yeah.
all this. I mean, even after I spoke to that person I told you about the Santeria thing, they say, I know I shouldn't believe in it, but I do. So what? Change your belief system. Change your belief system. It's not real. It's not real. And so the more we really realize that we've been, we need to relearn a lot of things. And that was my journey at 47 when I first started the show, and here we are in my 60th year. I'm still relearning things. And it's so important for all of us to say, you know what? Yes, my mom taught me this, and my father taught me this, and maybe my professor and my, and my medical degree taught me this. but what else is out there? What else do I need to be aware of? And I want to add that I don't believe you're saying that capitalism is bad and making money is bad. It's just how we make that money. Will it profit everybody? Is it a win for everybody, or is it, do I win by killing you? Do I win by torturing you? That's not a win for me. That's a win-lose, and we need to create a
Right.
win-win everywhere we go. And that's what
Yeah,
I'm
well
hearing you
said.
say.
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. It's great to be aware, though, of the underlying patterns and how our violence actually comes back. So once we're no longer participating in causing the abuse of animals, and we're taking responsibility for our health and the quality of our relationships, the quality of our consciousness, I think the essential thing is that we do the outer work, like you're doing, of doing the best we can to shine the light of loving kindness, and as much as possible send into the infinite web of relations love, compassion, joy, and peace, and freedom, and abundance, and awareness. But really, what's especially important is to take time every day to enter the silence, because the key to sanity really is to be able to connect with the infinite sky of awareness, where there isn't anything happening other than the radiant oneness or unity of being. And when we come from that space, when we connect with that in the beginning of the day, I think it's really a good idea to take time every day at the beginning of the day to create a foundation. Like I have 2 hours every morning. I'm just in meditation. And the idea is that once we have that foundation of inner peace and awareness that what we are is eternal. What we are was never born and will never die. This physical body will definitely die. I mean, you can eat a lot of sprouts and be really healthy, but maybe after 10 or 11 decades, it's definitely going to go. But what we are never dies. And so what matters is, are we living our purpose? Are we doing what we came here to do? Because when we leave our body, that's what we're going to be basically addressing, that question. And we can address it every single moment right now.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And when you said about silence, what came to my mind was, and it's in the silence that we hear God speak. And I really believe that we need to turn things off. After you watch the classroom, you can turn it off and then have that
Right.
silence, because we do need to have that inspiration that comes from beyond what we believe is true. And so I want to encourage you. I mean, I don't know if any of you feel more inspired to be compassionate towards animals, more inspired to maybe increase your vegetables today, more inspired to do something kind for a neighbor that maybe is kind of grumpy, sweep their, you just never know what pain, unresolved pain is creating an ugly outside, like a outwardly, grumpy person. Maybe deep down inside, they just need love and compassion. And you can be that for that person today.
Yes.
Dr. Tuttle, I am just so grateful every time you come on. I feel so empowered to create something different and new for myself. And I really appreciate everything that you're doing. Keep on the good work. And I'm grateful that you are healthy and you keep going, you and Madeline keep going around sharing this information. I'm looking forward to seeing you in March 8th in Cape Canaveral. But check out Dr. Will Tuttle's website, drtuttle.com, to find out where he's going to be. You might be in your area, so check him out.
Exactly.
So thank you so much, Dr. Tuttle. I wish we had more time to speak, but you have touched my heart, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And please remember, you're in choice. All of us are in choice. You can choose health as well as you can choose dis-ease. It all depends on how your mindset. It just choose love every time, and it'll always take you to joy. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Will Tuttle wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. You did it right. That's awesome.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert